right. So we are now live, and we will call this general session to order. And we begin our meetings by saying the Pledge of Allegiance in our respective locations. So let's all stand and say the pledge.
Okay. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Great. Thank you, everyone. All right, so we will begin with our first discussion item. And Mark and Anne-Marie, we are glad that you are here with us today. And
good to be with you.
Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Of course. So we'll begin with you, if that's okay, if you could give us maybe just some opening thoughts about your CDBG application, and then we may have a few questions for you once we get the discussion started. So the floor is yours.
Mark, you want me to
give us
speak
some
to the
words?
application?
Yes, please.
Okay. One of the surprises, one of many surprises we've had, but the biggest one was when we found out in December that there was an additional cost of nearly $130,000 to $150,000 to connect to the water, sewer, sanitary, and that wasn't initially in our budget. So that was a bit of a surprise for us. And hence the reason that we have applied to for the CDBG funds. And you know, while it might sound like a lot of money, it is a lot of money, but 150,000 of that is coming right back to the county for the install. So Mark, you can take it from there, unless Kathleen, you have a question.
Anne-Marie, wasn't it 250 was your request? What are you saying 150? I'm confused here.
Yes, I'm sorry. Our request was 250,000, but 150 of that approximately is coming back to the county because that's what the fees are for us to tap in.
Okay, see, I'm confused again. I thought the full 250, it was 244 something is what it added up to, was going back to the county.
Well, we need, part of those funds is for materials, supplies, and installation of what we have to bring in to bring the water down. And then there's the tie-in fee, which is between 130 and 150 that goes to the county. Mark, correct me if I'm incorrect.
Yeah, I think the hookup just for the tap in for one of the utilities alone was $134,000, and then up and above that we had the tap in for the other, which I don't have that figure right now. Jean would know that. I think it was for either water or sanitation, but I know the one was 134,000. That was the largest one that caught us off guard. And what you have beside that in the estimates, I mean, you've got the state inspector that has to be there, that has to be paid for that to come down across the properties. You've got the cost of the materials itself, then you've also got the contractors. And on top of that, we've had, the fire department has also asked for a front connection for fire. Even though we suppressed the whole building, they're asking for a special connection at the front of the building. So it's a part of the total cost. That doesn't really have much to do with the interior of the building. It has more to do with the services of the public itself, like fire and the different people that would be accessing that. But the largest cost that we absorbed here will be the attachment costs or the connection fees themselves. So, and then the materials and everything else with contracting, state inspectors and everything is up and above that. So I think we estimated around, the engineer estimated that the cost of bringing that down to the building, there were 3 quotes. One was for water, one was for sanitation, and the other one was for general hookup mains.
Right.
And
Tie-ins.
those, tie-ins, and those were it was $139,080, $15,200, and then $52,870 were the 3 listed engineer costs for just bringing the attachment. It wasn't the cost for actually tying in. That was just the cost of the materials themselves, with the valves and the mains and everything. So.
Okay, well, in the application, we've got 3 costs. We've got $66,195, public water main, sanitary sewer, $48,180, and the tie-in cost $130,000. It all adds up to $244,355. Jane,
Yeah,
what part of that is coming directly back to Portage County right away?
Gene's muted.
Based on
There
the
he is.
last estimate done, not counting for the potential reduction that could occur from our November discussion when we talked about tap-in fees. We provided for the ability for you to go to Haven in Summit County or any other organization, obtain a bed count and a water bill from them, in which case we could do the math on our end and provide you a possible reduction. But right now, 81,607.50 is the sewer tap, and the water tap is 25,850 for a total of 107,457.50. Now that was based on the lowest possible number we could provide. And if you remember, we provided different options, but the lowest possible was a summer cottage, because you're not really seasonal, but you're more seasonal than you are non-seasonal. We felt that that would be reasonable and defendable, but we're still open to you obtaining a water bill, which could even further reduce the sewer side.
Yeah, correct. I've been waiting 3 weeks. I was trying to get in contact with Reverend Kaiser and Jim Cole over at the Haven, and one of them was on vacation. Haven't received a call back from the other. So I apologize for that.
Well, that's all right. The 2 pieces of information is, a year's worth of water bills, if they have that, and then the number of beds served, because that's how we would calculate it.
Correct.
We'd average the water bill, divide it by the number of beds, come up with a per bed amount, and then come back and look at what we were proposing, which is the lowest we can go. Whichever one is lower, I think would be the one that the board would support with our recommendation, but it's really the final decision's the board. We do this for restaurants. We do this, as we described before, for everybody that can come up on the commercial side with a alternative method to define what the volume of usage is. Otherwise, we are required by EPA regulations to follow what's called the Green Book, which is where we're at the lowest possible denominator.
Now, Gene, you gave us the figure, the 81,607.50 and 25,850 added up to 107,457.50. Does that number replace this 130,000, or am I not understanding something here? That's not the tie-in fees, is it, or is it?
Well, the 130, it could go that high. So I until we have an actual water bill to defend, or the board approves the 107, that would be the number. 130 was an estimate when the program was put together.
I feel like now that I was missing some information, because there was supposed to be some other work done, like estimated water bills and things like that.
When we talked in November with the members that are present, some of the members that are present on the Zoom meeting, we discussed that potential for them to get a reduction based on a similar organization's usage. So, and maybe, and I say this in all honesty, knowing where the Haven is in Akron and the number of people that go in and out of there, that bill may be higher than what we could offer based on this seasonal.
I would suspect that it is much higher because the amount of people that they have there.
Well, but it's not people, it's beds. So if
Right,
they
it's a proportion.
4 times more water than what you propose, but they have 10 times more beds, then
Yeah.
you're
Right.
reduced. That's the reason we asked for
Yeah.
the bed.
I think the ratio, if we went at the bare minimum with the facility, we're looking at a difference between 160 beds versus 62, which is what we had kind of projected out. And their max capacity, if they use fold out cots, different things like that, is 250. Where I believe that we could probably, with fold out cots, hit somewhere around 100 if we needed to, because the whole building is suppressed. So those are the comparisons, I think, between the two facilities. And like I say, I apologize for that. Sabrina was following up with me in this in the last month, and I had a heart attack on April 20th. That's what set some of this behind. So I apologize to all of you for that. But I as soon as I have that, I'd be more than willing to submit it, to the matter of fact, I had made a call back on Friday, knowing that this meeting was coming, and still had not. I think it was Jim Cole's the one that we mainly been working with on most of the estimates, and he was on vacation. So,
I have to say, I was kind of in the dark about this for many times. Like, you folks met in November, and I didn't know anything about it until I think May. So I was kind of behind the 8 ball. Who was supposed to contact the commissioners about this? Do you know?
No, I don't think there's anyone contacting the commissioners. Mark and Anne Marie reached out.
But none of us knew about it, Sabrina.
Well, you did. I thought because Anne Marie had reached out to you, I thought.
Randy Kleitz reached out to me, and then I called Anne Marie. But I didn't know anything about this November meeting. I think one of the commissioners should have been involved in that.
Well, Sabrina was at the meeting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they reached out to me and asked me if I would set up a meeting. There was some confusion with Jean, which we did. And Jean was trying to get them on the right track to understanding. There was no need that I had to report back to the commissioners. It was a citizen asking for help.
It was more informational at that time because it was a shock to us. So.
yeah, we weren't trying to hide anything, Vicki. It was just that we were invited into this because there were questions then in November, and it was kind of a meeting that was set up quickly with Gene and his staff. So
I just think I would have felt better had I known sooner, because Randy Kleitz called me kind of in a panic and saying, this is what's going on. And I'm thinking, I had no idea that, this had been an estimate. And so, and you say, Sabrina, there was no need to tell the other commissioners, but maybe we could have been working on this and it not been such a surprise.
Well, at this point, again, it was informational meeting. And there was items that Jean had given them to work on, and then they were going to come back. So,
and that never happened.
I did not hear back. I mean, other than we were still trying to get the cost down here recently. I think Jean reached out to me and said, hey, we're still waiting on the bills from the Haven of Rust, which, as Mark stated, we've been in contact trying to get those, and I've been following up with Mark. So, and he had a heart attack in the middle of it. So
I think COVID kind of threw a wrench in everything.
Yeah, and
February on, and with the holidays, the stuff got lost in tracking, and it wasn't that we didn't want it. I had actually reached out right after the meeting in November to the Haven of Rest, just to try to track that information down. And so it was something that we were all aware of. And again, I apologize, for that there was a series of things that kind of got
that got in there.
But
okay.
Mark and Anne Marie, my concerns about the proposal are both the amount of the request, which is by far the largest single request that if we fund that at the full amount, would be the largest we've ever funded by a significant amount. The other concern I have is with the data that the county provides to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development as part of our continuum of care for our homeless population in the county, is showing that our unsheltered population in the county is, over the last several years, is between about 8 and 15. So I am concerned that the data is not there to support the need for such a large facility as the one that is being proposed at 65 beds. So those are my two concerns with the proposal. I'd be happy to hear any comment that you may have about those.
I assume you refer, I'm sorry, Mark,
No, go
refer
ahead.
to the pit count, the point in time count.
Mhm.
And as you well know, that's done one day, and it's
Mhm.
done between certain hours like 8 p.m. and past midnight. Those numbers have never been accurate. We've never been able to count couch surfers, and we know there are many couch surfers out there. In addition, parents are very, very protective, and they're not
Mhm.
going to come out and say that they are homeless because they're at risk of losing their children. We already have 199 kids in foster care, and a percentage of those are going to be 18 and start aging out. So, Mark, you want to pick up, because I know you were.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of dynamics here. I think that I think for the commissioner's sake, they need to understand that we were already underway to providing this outreach before we ever joined the community group. And so we had intended to put up some type of a sheltering system because the numbers fluctuate consistently. And I think, you know, as you look at it, you might look and say right now that there aren't 40 to 80 people behind Walmart like there were a few years back.
Mhm.
But I think the caution in all of this is there's so many dynamics. I mean, we were also looking at trafficking. We also incorporated drawing in our place, which is also addiction focused. And a lot of these areas have overlaps. It's not just a facility for just sheltering with beds. You're also looking at medical. There's going to be medical services provided through Kent State Nursing, along with 2 doctors and 10 nurses that we have, an ophthalmologist and also a dentist that is overseeing some of the other services that are being offered for free to the county. So I think there's a whole list. I mean, Ann had mentioned the couch surfers, but you also have, if you take just Haven of Rest's clientele themselves, the 160 beds that I mentioned, which they reported in their 2018 celebration of 75 years. Jim Cole, at that time, I had been over there on a tour, and he said that 1/3 of those clients are Portage County residents. And I asked him the question if they were referrals because the housing wasn't available. He said no. He said they weren't referrals. They were just people that couldn't find housing. And I think when you look at FNCS's answer to some of the numbers being lower, right now they reported on their website in the most recent reporting for this year that up and above their main shelters, they are housing or putting people up in hotels. So the housing issue is not really being resolved inside of our organizations completely. And just as a future warning, I think, to the commissioners, or an encouragement, we have everyone worried and scared sick about landlords right now running tenants out who can't afford to keep the payments up on their current housing situation.
Mhm.
And if we get flooded after 36 million Americans have applied for unemployment with a need for more housing, and I'm just appealing to this side of it, If we find that we're overloaded with that and the shelter is still not up and running just because we ran into some financial difficulties, it will be, I feel it'll be sad. We're not going to give up on the project itself, but this would help us get over the hump to help us get to a place where we would be able to supply at least more beds for the county in the event that that happens. And I mean, we haven't even talked about our connection with foster services yet. The sheriff's department dropping people off just for assessing on what we do with them. That's at least 1 to 2 a day at the courthouse. There's a whole lot of other things that are at stake here, I think, for the county's sake. So we started out only seeing the needs when we began into this project looking for land of just trafficking and homeless. But it grew into a whole lot more as we started realizing, that those needs were picking up. I've also been a part of meetings where the county has been involved with housing services, and some of those organizations and government funding has dropped off. And then it gets picked back up based on application or grants. But I think with the fluctuation, all we're trying to do is to provide another option and basically provide the community with things where it would be a graduated approach, which I think FNCS is trying to do the same thing. But we're trying to see these people through to where they can get stabilized, jobs on site, along with training, culinary, whatever else you want to put in there. We've even had a view to putting a greenhouse with agriculture and different things like that, where we would hire the clients to oversee the care of that type of stuff. But those are just some of the things that we're looking at. Our mentoring is a lower ratio. Instead of having caseworkers or anyone else, we're trying to keep the ratio of a mentor of 1 to 1 or 1 to 2 so that they can invest more time over a longer period of time for these clients. And we talk about low barriers, and some of the barriers have been reduced in the last couple of years, but we still don't have a shelter that has almost zero barriers. And we're talking about just mainly the issue with pedophiles. And I mean, we still would probably be doing some, if there was a detox situation, we would be doing a referral, but then the minute that the detox was done, it would be a release point for those in detox until we could get their housing situation straightened out. And we would be working with FNCS too. Or any of the other organizations. Coleman was behind this. We've had Kent State backing us. There's plenty of groups that we've been in contact with that are in favor of this moving ahead. So I think my biggest fear is what I see could be coming. The unemployment applications are a real thing right now. And they're already actuated. And we don't know what the effects, the domino effect is going to be with this coming down the road when everyone is scared to death to where they have to ask the state to legislate things to restrict landlords from evicting their tenants. And so they're already afraid that that's going to happen across the state of Ohio.
Mark, can I just interject? I was
sure
on a Co-Ohio webinar last week, and before the COVID, only 4 to 5% of rentals in Ohio resulted in evictions. And now they're projecting that those eviction rates are going to rise to 20% or more. We need to be ready. We need to be prepared, and we need to have a place for these individuals to go.
And Mark, you mentioned that you received information from a Facebook post that Mark Frazone had posted that for March and April this year, that he's the only agency in the county right now that provides shelter to the homeless, and that in that he states that every bed is full, which he only has 22 beds, and there are some persons living in alternate shelter as to the hotels, motels. So when we say we want to judge it by the point in time count, that right there just justifies that that is not an accurate count by no means, and that doesn't take into consideration like people that actually work and live in their cars. I mean, we have a lot of those folks that, they work and they live in their cars, and they may not be considered for that count.
Right. I know there were 2 up at the library for sure that were still in cars that were living out of them, because I actually received
Yeah.
calls on from security at Reed, that they had them there. And I don't want to speculate on how many of those there are. I mean, to try to build
Yeah.
numbers up, but I just,
Yeah.
the commissioners need to know this. We are going to finish this project no matter what. It just may take us a little more time, but
Yeah.
we are going to see this through. We would love to have your help in it. We would love this to be in that. This is one way of a community engagement where we're all working together. I mean, we obviously have no control over or how you decide or what you decide, but I think the amount that was requested would be a huge boost. And in the contracting phase, the contractors are saying if this happened, it would actually put us on target before we get to the fall. And otherwise, we're going to have to run another financial campaign. And the last couple have taken us a couple of years to reach the goals that we've tried to reach with that. And like I say, this is no fault of Gene's at all. We just didn't see the connection costs coming. And at the time that we met back in November, it was 134,000 that was on the paper, and we know that that can fluctuate. But so I will continue to try to get those numbers for you from the Haven to get them submitted to you as soon as possible, hopefully this week. And after we're done here, I'll hop on the phone and try to see if I can't even engage with someone over there. So.
And, you guys have a lot of support in the community. I looked at your letters of support, from like Nelson Burns to, Mayor Seaman, who definitely understands the homelessness issue that they have in Ravenna. I mean, I know we had two homeless people that were sleeping in an alcove, which was like a private entrance for our pastor, that had to be run out. I had probably 6 people yesterday call me after the article hit the paper about there only being like 15 people per the pick count, saying that is so wrong. And one of the ladies that called me, she's a supervisor for the 2 laundromats in Ravenna, and she says daily they have to ask homeless people to leave the laundromat. And she gives them the hope bags, I guess, that they hand out for the homeless, and she feels really bad that she has to chase them out. And it's not necessarily, she said, some of them battle with mental illness, some of them have addiction problems, but they're homeless, they have no place to go. I talked to a John McFarland. He said he's been a supporter since the beginning, and he believes in the mission. He's concerned about the low number reported for homeless. There was a Matthias Hoffler who supports it and believes in the shelter and your mission. And then Nelson had actually reached out to me stating that he supports the Haven. He definitely sees a need, and that he actually wrote a letter of support, as we have in our packet, as well as help, with the application, because he feels, and he even went as far as to say, if it was deciding between funding my project or Anne Marie's, he said, I could still make my project work. I just have to do some creative stuff with the financing. But that's how supportive he was. And he said, I even applied for a project myself from the funding. But he was very, very supportive. And so.
Yeah, ironically, we have a letter too on file with the zoning commission of Mark's own support, for the project.
Yeah, Mark for zone and Rachel from Habitat, I think.
I think it's sad right now that we're kind of caught in looking at present numbers and wondering, are they right or are they wrong? Because we know that these things fluctuate continuously, and it's hard to track transient people, and it's not just couch surfers. It's hard to track the homeless out in the woods, and some of them don't want to come in, but at the same time, you're always Cincinnati when they had their outreach down there. One of the things that they found was it took about 6 or 7 years before they were able to bring this gentleman, and it was because of a blizzard. He was frozen to the tree. And so they've got that on video down in Cincinnati about their outreach there. And obviously their numbers are larger than ours, you know, with the county. But I just think my concern is that I see writing on the wall with things that are being elevated right now. And I'm nervous about the cries already for state action to prevent landlords from evicting their tenants because they're not able to pay because of loss of jobs or closed businesses.
Yeah.
And I just, all I'm saying to everyone is I just think, you know, we're going to move as fast as we can to open this up because we still believe. So I'm just going to say this because I'm a faith person, and I said this to Vicky the other day, but God told us to do this. And there was thousands of hours of prayer that has gone into this over a 4 or 5 year period. And we feel like he has told us to do this and we need to follow through. And I need to do it with my last breath to try to provide this for the county. I don't know what all, we're still not at a place where we know all the services that will be needed or will need to be provided. And again, the thing that we're talking about, it's not always that there aren't services available. It's that there aren't services that don't cost anything that are available.
Yeah.
And there need to be more of those constantly, you know, for the sake of backup, for the county's sake. And along with it, you know, you need to know, I told Vicky this when we met, but I know like with people like Jim DiPaolo, they are worried about tax dollars coming in for the support of local services like the fire department, different places. And that's one of the reasons why we want hiring on site, because we know that's a concern of theirs, and that's 10 acres they could have used, you know, for business development. And so we have a sensitivity to that too. And so that's kind of where our heart is at with it, just for your background information. And all we can do is just appeal to you, Hope, you know, that.
You know, Mark, that's a very good point. And one that I was going to make is it's not only about serving a great need for those that are homeless, but it's also an economic driver, because by bringing that down, there's other tenants along 59 that would be able to tap into that would not cost as much as if they tried to tap into where Walmart ran those lines like along a railroad track, and it's not affordable for a lot of those people. So by you guys bringing it up closer up front, I've been told that it makes it more economical for other people. And I know Beck's just bought the old golf course, and their intention is to develop that. So there's a lot of potential with this project that will come back to the communities.
Yeah, I have to be honest, Gene is very wise and frugal in all of this. He, you know, he's allowed whoever it is that's requesting the water and sanitation to be brought down, and I got to give it to him. You know, it's smart in protecting the county's funds by doing that. So I don't disagree with that at all. It's just that's an essential need, you know, that we saw that we still have to bring it down no matter what. And so
I just have one thing to say, well, maybe two. I worked for FNCS for 14 years, and the last 7 years that I was there, I oversaw the County Clothing Center. I managed the Center of Hope and Kent Social Services. So I saw firsthand how many homeless people were really there and how many had children and did not want to come forward and admit they were homeless because they didn't want the risk of losing their children. So, and I've even held memorial services at the Center of Hope because we lost 2 homeless individuals, and Pastor Mark Miller came and did those services for us. They didn't have any family, they didn't have anyone else, and I just felt they needed to have a memorial service. And it was amazing how many of their friends from the street did come. So.
And you know, Anne Marie, I want to add to that is I had talked to several superintendents about numbers, and then I had one of them send out an email or actually a text on Friday to get some numbers. And he only heard back from one, but I think the concern there, he said, well, you know, it's the holiday weekend, we got graduations, but I think some of the concern there was to actually bring that information forward and protecting some of those folks that, you know,
Right.
they're not bad parents because they're homeless. You know, they're still good parents. It's just an unfortunate time in their life. And I think they're, and I could be wrong, I think they're, you know, safe harboring, you know, any of that. But I appreciate, you know, all the information that you guys have given us today.
Thank you.
And you know, I appreciate it also, but I think one important thing that we're overlooking here, I know I did not know the difference between homeless and unsheltered. And I know Sabrina, in our last meeting, you said you talked to the Ravenna superintendent and there were
Yes.
8 or 10 homeless.
What, 10 just in Maplewood?
Well, he's saying, I contacted him too, because that was horrifying to me. He said there's 118 homeless students, but what that means is they just don't have, I mean, they may be living with relatives, so they're not actually homeless. I think that's what we need to understand also. And when I'm asking these questions, it's important to me that the citizens, the taxpayers understand why we're considering this. Because,
Yeah.
there's so
Well,
much
like I,
to know about this. And
well, like I
it's
said,
going to be misleading. And I think we kind of have been unintentionally sometimes misleading about this.
well, like I said, he said 10, which I thought was, you know, a pretty big number, but those are the 10 people that they don't necessarily have an address. They're couch surfing. They're not necessarily, and he gave me an example of one kid that he knew did not have a true place to call home, that he provided $200 for this kid to buy some clothes and stuff with. So I think my conversation with him, those, because he specifically spelled out that they are truly homeless. Like, they don't know from one day to the next necessarily where they're going to be staying at. And
that's
Vicki,
true.
yeah,
That's true with those individuals that are couch surfing in general, or unsheltered individuals, because with this COVID, they were pitching out couch surfers out of their homes because they were scared. So where are these people going to go?
You know, this question may be better for Todd Peets, maybe. I'm not sure. If we make a commitment to give so many dollars today, and say Gene comes up with a number that's less and they don't need all those dollars, is there any way they can return that to CDBG, or how does that work?
Yeah, we can move it to another project. We can move it to another project that may need the money as an amendment to the CDBG application, or we could even, through an amendment process, even add a new project if we had, depending on the amount and depending on how soon we knew there's a savings in the amount being requested.
And
Todd,
is there a timeline there, Todd?
Well, no, but you probably would want to have at least 8 to 12 months of notice. So if you're going to create a whole new project, you know, the other thing you could do is you could say all that money goes to the countywide demo is another option. You know, there might be, we have another project with Wyndham Community Center, for example, that we're, you know, they always seem to be conservative with their numbers, and sometimes they
they go over.
So you might need money for another project too. So yeah, you can move the money. You don't just lose it if it comes out that Gene's quote comes down much less than what they thought.
And
Well,
Todd,
I want to make one point here also. I think one of the organizations was concerned that the Haven is going to be in competition with that organization. And I want to make it clear that this money is going for not operations, not
no,
anything like that. I mean, it's something that you need in order to get up and running.
That's correct.
I don't foresee in the future you going after public funds with this other organization and being in competition. I'd like to kind of make that clear, because there was a problem saying that you had said initially you would never go after public funds, and that was a real stickler. And that's kind of spreading as we go day after day.
Right. And Vicki, as I explained to you in our meeting when we had it the other day, we've always clarified that transparently to the public that we were doing that specifically. We've been counseled by Haven of Rest not to accept any HUD funding that would change our protocols.
Right.
Or your mission.
And so, correct, to
Yeah,
keep our barriers low.
I would like to just say we have a wonderful donor base. People jumped on board because they know the need is there and they're not going to invest their money somewhere where they don't think it's going to be successful and be sustainable. So I want
to say one more thing, and this is for Todd Peets to verify. When we allocate, let's say, $250,000 to this project, it's not like we cut a check and give you the $250,000. It's done in phases. And we've had numerous projects that have either run over or under that we've reallocated funds before for. So it's not like if we say, okay, we'll give you up to, let's say, 200,000. If you do not utilize it all, it's not like you get to keep it. We disperse it in phases.
right.
Is that correct, Todd?
Yeah, that's all correct. You know, we bid the projects out. If there's a cost to water resources for the tie-ins, we will pay the exact cost. The money never goes into the hands of the Haven ever.
Exactly. So it only goes for. And then I think, Vicki, you mentioned a meeting the other day. I believe I heard you met with actually FNCS regarding this project. Do you have anything else you wanted to report? Because I didn't remember you mentioning that last Thursday.
I hadn't met with them last Thursday. This was
No, the prior to, like Monday that week. Had you met with them or anything?
You know what?
Because I thought I heard you had.
What day did we meet, Ann?
It's Thursday. Was it Thursday?
No,
I think it was
Tuesday. I think. Was it
Tuesday before last Thursday, because I didn't hear you mention anything about that when we were discussing this last week. So I just wondered if there was anything else that you'd like to add from your meeting with Ann Face from FNCS that we should take into consideration.
No, I think the main point was they were concerned that there's only so many public funds, and if we have more people going after them, they wouldn't have what they need to run their organization.
Well, I find that interesting considering they did not apply for any of these funds.
I think they were thinking future. I mean, they weren't saying they applied for any of these funds.
Mm-hmm.
What data do you have, Sabrina, that you said you were going to bring to this meeting? I know Kathleen said she was going to bring data and you said you were going to bring data.
I think if you listened earlier, I explained that I had Randy send out a text and he only heard from one school district. And the concern there is with the holiday and with the graduations and they're trying to modify, he's thinking that's why he had not heard back. And plus there was very little notice given for that. Another concern is they may be trying to protect those people. They don't really want to identify it because a lot of the parents are afraid, that social services may try to come and take their kids. I did state that earlier. You just must not have heard.
No, I did hear. I thought you were going to give us some data though.
Well, I explained why I did not have that.
Okay.
Apparently you didn't understand. I'm sorry.
So we are getting close to 10 o'clock, which I know we have another budget meeting that we want to attend. So are there any remaining questions for Mark and Anne Marie?
I don't have any.
No.
I would just like to thank you for the opportunity for us to come and talk about our project. It's very important to all of us, and it's very important to the community. So thank you for that.
We appreciate you coming and offering this perspective and on such short notice as well. So and putting up with some technology issues. We appreciate
Sorry about
it.
that.
You guys keep doing a great job. I mean, you guys are really doing the Lord's work, and I truly appreciate you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right. Thank
All right.
you.
Bye.
Take care.
Be praying for you guys.
All right. Thanks.
So, commissioners and friends, I propose that we take a recess.
You guys keep doing a great job. I mean, you guys are really doing the Lord's work, and I truly appreciate you.
Thank you.
What's happening?
Thank you so much.
All right.
Is somebody watching the live feed
Be praying for you
and they
guys.
don't have it
Not-
muted?
All right. Thanks.
So, commissioners and friends, I propose that we take a recess.
You guys keep doing a great job. I mean, you guys are really doing the Lord's work, and I truly appreciate you. I don't know who
Okay,
that's getting done.
so can we take a recess and we will reconvene after the Budget Commission meeting? So
Okay.
we will send an email out to everyone when we are reconvening with the Zoom link.
For the Budget Commission, Kathleen? Is that what?
Yeah,
Okay.
After the budget.
all right.
commission.
So I'm gonna
Okay.
temporarily suspend the live feed and we'll be back on after Budget Commission. Thanks, everyone.
All right. Thanks.